Coming up on Global Business, cementing ties, Chinese Premier Li Qiang meets with his Russian counterpart Mikhail Mishustin in Beijing. Healthy sign, China's top economic planner, the NDRC, anticipates a moderate rise in inflation in 2024. And changing course, shippers adjust routes and prices in response to maritime attacks by Yemen's Houthi in the world's main east-west trade routes. Welcome to this edition of Global Business. I'm Zhu Jufeng in Beijing. Chinese Premier Li Qiang co-chaired the 28th regular meeting of the Chinese and Russian heads of government with his counterpart Mikhail Mishustin in Beijing. Li highlighted China-Russia relations under the strategic guidance of Presidents Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. He noted that China is willing to take the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries next year as an opportunity to implement the consensus reached by both countries' leaders. Two countries should inject more stability and positive energy into the world. Mishustin said Russia is willing to work with China to foster generational friendship and enhance bilateral cooperation in trade, agriculture, energy and cultural exchanges. The meeting included positive assessments of the efficient work of various commitments of the past year, emphasizing the need to bolster the internal dynamics of China-Russia relationship, ensuring energy security and promoting connectivity. Additionally, Li Qiang and Mishustin announced the successful closure of the China-Russia Sports Exchange Year and the upcoming China-Russia Cultural Year, sealing the meeting with a joint communiqué and signing multiple bilateral cooperation documents. The 9th China-Russia Finance Ministers' Dialogue took place in Beijing on Monday, where discussions were held regarding the proactive measures that China and Russia are planning to implement in order to create a favorable policy environment for bilateral trade and investment. Our reporter Aaron Liu had an opportunity to speak with Russian Finance Minister Anton Sulanov. Take a listen.
With the continuous expansion of local currency settlements, 95% of bilateral trade between Russia and China is now settled in rubles and the renminbi. What is your assessment of the role of this cooperative model in enhancing the stability and the reliability of economic cooperation?
Действительно, между нашими странами растет товарооборот.
Indeed, trade between our two countries has continuously increased. Bilateral trade for this year surpassed $200 billion in November, meaning we completed the task assigned to us by our heads of state ahead of schedule. Amidst this rapid growth, many products from China have entered the Russian market. The primary responsibility of Russia's finance ministry is to protect this trade and to facilitate the settlement of payments. We have also seen that the proportion of trade settled in local currencies now exceeds 90%. Our two countries are extensively using their respective national financial messaging systems, and our banks are also developing a mechanism for agent accounts, ensuring smooth payment for these transactions.
What proactive measures are China and Russia planning to take in the future to provide a favorable policy environment for bilateral trade and investment?
Я во многом ответил на те.
In addition to what was mentioned earlier, I would like to emphasize the efforts we have made and the positive results that have been achieved through the collaborative work of both sides. Our cooperation with Chinese partners on various international platforms, including the G20, has been highly effective. Apart from the increase in trade volume, we have engaged in extensive cooperation in the financial sector, addressing practical and pressing issues. We have held productive dialogue with the Chinese Ministry of Finance, aiming to further explore these matters. So we attach great importance to this aspect of our work. We have also discussed how to further develop the financial systems between our two countries, including cooperation within international organizations and frameworks. This involves the development of jointly proposed development banks, the expansion of insurance and reinsurance operations within the BRICS framework, and the enhancement of settlement operations among our BRICS countries, among other issues.
The Russian Ministry of Finance forecast suggests that economic and social development in the coming years will be positive, with the GDP growth expected to range between 2.2% and 2.3%. Does this indicate that the Russian economy has undergone structural transformation and maintained stability?
Безусловно, это меры реагирования на те вызовы, с которыми мы столкнулись.
Indeed, the measures we have taken to address these new circumstances have yielded positive results. Firstly, we have focused on ensuring the well-being of the people, supporting retired people and families with children. Additionally, this includes supporting our businesses as they are facing challenges to their traditional supply chains. As a result of these measures, Russia's economic growth reached 3.5% in 2023. Our plans for the coming years aim to ensure economic growth of around 2%. The government of the Russian Federation is very willing to increase the issuance of bonds, enhance the production capacity of businesses, create more job opportunities, raise wages, and improve living standards, as the improvement of living standards also facilitates further financing.
Recent data from China's General Administration of Customs reveals that the total trade between China and Russia exceeded $200 billion for the first time in history. In the first 11 months of this year, bilateral trade volume reached $218 billion, marking a 27% year-on-year increase. Among this, China's exports to Russia were $100 billion, a year-on-year increase of 50%, while China's imports of Russian goods were $118 billion, showing a 12% year-on-year growth. In November alone, the trade volume reached $21 billion, with China exporting $10 billion and importing $12 billion worth of goods from Russia. Watching Global Business coming up next. It's a healthy sign. China's top economic player, the NDRC, expects a moderate rate in rise in inflation rates in 2024.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
China's National Development and Reform Commission, or NDRC, expects a moderate rise in inflation next year. During a press conference on Tuesday, the NDRC said that the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, has remained at a low level this year and expressed confidence in achieving the country's economic and social development targets. Li Chao, a spokesperson for the Commission, emphasized that with the ongoing economic recovery and the gradual effectiveness of policies, China has the necessary conditions and capabilities to promote sustained economic improvement. Looking ahead, the NDRC plans to enhance macro control efforts, prepare policy tools to address potential risks and challenges, prioritize high-quality development, support the growth of private sector, and attract and utilize foreign investment. The Ministry of Finance and State Taxation Administration have issued a comprehensive guidance aimed at assisting small and micro enterprises, or SMEs, in China to effectively utilize the preferential policies designed specifically for them. In an effort to promote the recovery and growth of SMEs, China has introduced over 70 preferential policies this year. The guidance document has compiled 50 of the most significant policies and provides detailed explanations regarding the eligibility, criteria, application process, and real-life examples for each policy. These policies are categorized into 4 main areas, including tax and fee reductions, financial support for small companies, innovation incentives, and tax benefits for companies established by key groups. SMEs often face challenges in navigating tax-related matters and taking advantage of available preferential policies in a timely manner. The government aims to continue its effort in effectively informing and educating small companies, thus contributing to their overall development. The Shanghai Stock Exchange is celebrating its 33rd anniversary on Tuesday and has achieved several milestones over the past 3 decades. In 2022 alone, the trading volume of stocks reached 96 trillion yuan, and the total fundraising in the stock market amounted to 850 billion yuan. The bond market featured some 26,000 listed bonds with a custody volume of nearly 16 trillion yuan. Additionally, the fund market witnessed a list of 614 funds, accumulating a total trading volume of 18.8 trillion yuan. Daily trading volume on the Shanghai Stock Exchange is expected to exceed 10 billion yuan in 2023. The Shanghai Stock Exchange has become one of the most important places for mainland companies to raise funds and to better serve the real economy. Zhang Shixuan has more.
Zheng Chen's business has been deeply involved in the development of the stock exchanges on the mainland for almost 2 decades. He is a lawyer that specializes in helping companies with their IPO listings. Zhen's team was one of the first to help with the first batch of IPO listings on the SciTech Innovation Board, widely known as the Star Board, back in 2019, which piloted a new registration-based system. In the past 4 years, his team has helped with 20 IPO listings, more than 80% of them on the Star Board.
We mainly help companies in the advanced manufacturing, semiconductor, and biopharma industries, those in the high-tech sector, with fundraising. So many of them got listed on the Star Board in the past. A company should now prove a need for capital in order to invest in technological upgrades to be approved to be listed on the Star Board.
As Shen points out, the board is now putting an increasing emphasis on fundraising for tech developers to better solve problems in the real economy. And this year, with the entire A-share market using the registration-based system, there has been a clearer picture in the characteristics and functions of the different boards on the mainland.
Positions are now clearer. For example, some companies that have not registered profits can just go listing on the Star Board. And some smaller scale companies with fewer links to technology can list on the China Next Board.
The market is obviously not satisfied with domestic investment alone. The Shanghai Stock Exchange has been seeking more fundraising channels through international cooperation, with the launch of Stock Connects with Switzerland and the UK.
The needs is definitely here, so especially when next year some international economies probably will be continue to slow down, but what here, the growth, if we look at the relative basis, we still have one of the highest growth rate around the world. So I think the demand for the international investors to invest in China, and also as a part of their portfolio diversifications, is also there. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for the cross-border fund to move to China. So there's some important things for the Shanghai Stock Exchange to cooperate with other exchanges. For the Chinese companies, they also have some demand, let's say, to list in overseas. So I think the Shanghai Stock Exchange also can play a role here.
As of Monday, 2,260 companies have been listed on the Shanghai Stock Exchange. A report from the consulting firm EY shows that the Chinese mainland was an important place for global IPO activity this year. IPO proceeds from the A-share market accounted for more than 40% of the total proceeds raised globally as of mid-November. Zhang Shixuan, ICS for CGTN, Shanghai.
Watching Global Business coming up next. Shippers adjust routes and prices in response to maritime attacks by Yemen's Houthis on the world's main east-west trade route.
.360-degree profiles of industry movers and shakers, tech mavericks, and policymakers. We drill down on their success. We ask how they set strategy and how they navigate in an increasingly competitive market. Real talk, real business. Join the conversation. Biz Talk, only on CGTN.
Several international shipping companies have decided to suspend Red Sea transits after a spate of attacks on ships in the region. The attacks have already sent shock waves through the global shipping industry and disrupted supply chains. The recent attacks on passenger ships in the Red Sea have been attributed to Yemen's Houthi armed forces amid the ongoing Israeli-Palestine conflict. The transit suspension by major shipping giants have led to increased costs, longer shipping duration, and heightened risks to safety and supply chain security. Additionally, extreme weather conditions continue to hamper transit through the Panama Canal, exacerbating the impact on the world economy. The two shipping lanes collectively accounted for 16% of global trade, and any restrictions on their usage could have severe consequences. The Suez Canal is Egypt's main source of income, and the closure of the route will further worsen Egypt's dire economic situation. The Suez Canal's authority is closely monitoring the situation in the Red Sea. Our correspondent in Cairo, Adel Al-Mahrouki, reports.
The Suez Canal is one of Egypt's main sources of national income and foreign currency reserves. This year, its revenues reached a record $9.4 billion. The route captures about 12% of the volume of world trade. That's over 1 trillion worth of goods per annum. And the Suez Canal Authority plans to pass the 15% mark within 2 years. Egyptian authorities says they are closely monitoring the impact of tension in the Red Sea following the attacks by Yemen's Houthis on vessels in the southern part of the basin. 4 of the world's largest shipping companies, which make up about 50% of the world's vessels, have said they're temporarily pausing navigation in the Red Sea. So far, the Suez Canal Authority says only 55 vessels in total have avoided the route in the past month. Out of more 2,000 ships, the figure is insignificant. But due to the increase in Red Sea attacks, more shipping firms are now choosing the longer path around Africa to connect Asia with Europe. This is bad news for the global supply chain, as alternative routes will add 10 to 14 days to standard shipping time. And if this pause in navigation stretches into the long term, the toll on the Suez Canal is only expected to grow. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Moving on to some other headlines we're tracking at this hour. Annual inflation in the Eurozone dipped to 2.4% in November, down from 2.9% in October. Notably, food, alcohol and tobacco experienced the highest inflation rate at 6.9%, while services grew by only 4% during the month. The Dutch economy is expected to witness minimum growth this year, primarily due to higher unemployment rates, increased bankruptcies and reduced household spending. The Dutch Central Bank stated on Monday that the economy is experiencing only marginal growth, largely influenced by lower global trade and high inflation. The Bank of Japan has chosen to uphold its long-standing ultra-loose monetary policy, prompting the yen to decline against the dollar and bolstering stock markets. Speculation had been circulating for weeks regarding a potential shift away from the negative interest rates, particularly as inflation rates show signs of picking up. The world is living through what industry insiders are calling the fourth industrial revolution. Just as AI and modern technology are changing our lives on an industry and the individual level, those advances are doing the same to industry and the future of the assembly line. CGTN's Alistair Beverstock reports from Mexico's industrial heartland.
This is Industry 4.0, the cutting edge of manufacturing technology, on display in Mexico. It's Latin America's Hanover Mesa Trade Expo, held in October in Guanajuato State, the industrial heartland of a country that received more than $31 billion in foreign direct investment last year.
This is the world's leading Industry 4.0 Expo. where the latest technology is on display, here at the Latin American edition of the trade fair.
An industrial phase also described as the fourth industrial revolution, Mexican industrialist Luis Rosano has watched developments closely since the concept was first discussed more than 10 years ago.
The idea was that the German economy was already hyper-industrialized, but the next generation was not only automation, but also with the full deployment of the technology available at that moment.
Deploying advanced robotics, machine interconnection and cutting-edge artificial intelligence, converting operations into smart factories, Industry 4.0 has the potential to boost manufacture efficiency, speed and volumes. It's a brave new world from which Mexico can benefit, according to José Bondi of Traction, a company specializing in AI assembly line fault detection.
Mexico is living through an industrial boom, and now is the time to invest in these new technologies in order to maximize this region's potential. We have companies across many industrial sectors who can take on these new tools to continue to grow and improve.
But it's not cheap. Upgrading manufacturing operations to smart factory standards requires millions of dollars in investment and becomes even more costly when machines fail. 1 hour of robot downtime in the automotive sector can represent $1 million or more in bottom-line losses. Mexican factory owner Juan Ramon Reyes says investment in new technologies comes with substantial risk.
El gobierno de México no incentiva la inversión.
Mexico's government does not incentivize our investments. There's no financial aid or fiscal breaks for local industry. If I buy a new machine, I have to pay for it myself entirely. The machine will last me 10 years, but after 5, it's already obsolete. We have to be very careful where we spend.
With the fourth industrial revolution on display for Mexico to see, decisions made here could lead to massive growth or Mexico being left behind on the global industrial stage. Alastair Baverstock, CGTN, Guanajuato, Mexico.
Now back to the topic of bilateral trade between China and Russia. Now I want to bring our guest, Mr. John Gong, a professor at the University of International Business and Economics. Thanks for joining us. Professor, what specific goods are being traded between China and Russia as their trade expands rapidly?
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Junfeng. I think, first of all, China-Russia trade has been booming for the last 2 years. It has reached by $200 billion by August this year, well exceeding the two leaders' agreement of target of hitting $200 billion by the end of this year. My estimate is that by the end of this year, it's probably going to be close to $240 billion. I think the goods coming from Russia are mostly energy and agricultural products, whereas exports from China to Russia mostly in the area of manufactured products, electronics, automobiles, these products. And I think if you look at the fundamental picture of Sino-Russia trade, it's very complementary, and I would see further growth into the future.
Now people are already talking about some emerging sectors. What are the opportunities in the prospects of trading the areas like services, digital economy and green economy between China and Russia?
Yeah, I think in green economy area, there's particularly promising hope, I think, from both sides, actually. I think, on Russia's side, there are many opportunities opening up in the infrastructure side, especially the entire Russian economy related to trade is orienting to the Orient. And it's upgrading its infrastructures in its Orient region, in terms of building, upgrading railways, bridges, ports, facilities, electricity network, stuff like that. And I think Chinese products as well as Chinese services really fit the need very well. From China's perspective, Russia is also upgrading its own industries as well, exporting more than just agriculture and energy products. It's also getting into the manufacturing products as well. And I think, from Russia's perspective, definitely they want to see more exports opportunities in that area. And I think there are certain areas, I think, related to, for example, maybe defense or other high-tech areas that Chinese companies are looking for Russian products as well.
China and Russia border with each other. How can cross-border support, including customs clearance and tariffs, be optimized to facilitate expansion of trade between the two countries?
My first suggestion is to for the two countries to negotiate a free trade agreement. Actually, believe it or not, China and Russia don't have a free trade agreement. For some time, China, is interested, or at least Russia is persuading China to join the EEU, which is the sort of Russian-steered Central Asian bloc of countries of a trade agreement, including Kazakhstan and I think Armenia and a few other countries, Russia as well. Now, from China's perspective, I've been advocating actually something analogous to the NAFTA. NAFTA is North America Free Trade Agreement, and I would call it North Asia Free Trade Agreement, also named as NAFTA, including, for example, China or Russia and Vietnam. Actually, if you really think about it, the role each country plays, China, Russia, and Vietnam, are very analogous to the roles played by Canada, United States, and Mexico. I think the three countries' economies are very complementary towards each other, and that there's a great prospect of a block of very large economies among these three countries to form a free trade agreement zone. Russia has 150 million people. Vietnam is also a very large country with over 100 million people, and China, of course, is 1.4 billion people. And that's a huge market if you really think about it. So I think, working towards the direction of a free trade agreement, I think represents a great direction of facilitating trade at borders. And I think it's more than just about facilitating trade at borders. I think Russia and China fundamentally, at least between the two countries, need a free trade agreement.
Yeah, it's a huge potential there. Thanks for that very refreshing trade deal suggestion. That's genius. Professor John Gong from University of International Business and Economics. Now, with that discussion with Professor John Gong, we'll wrap up this edition of Global Business. I'm Jun Qifeng. Thanks for watching. CITIC continues with more news and views. Don't go anywhere.
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.